Hey, mighty men of God, Joe Martin here with Real Men Connect, where we help good men become godly men by connecting them to successful husbands, great fathers, and strong leaders. Obviously, we're not in my car today. We're actually in my hotel room as I'm getting ready to check out. I'm actually on a speaking engagement in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm getting ready to check out of the hotel. But I wanted to shoot this quick video because I came up with this. I had this revelation, I guess, when I was doing my quiet time. God gave me this revelation about traveling. And I thought that a lot of you out there can relate to this. And I'm going to challenge you as men to do this, because as men, we have a hard and difficult time being vulnerable and connecting with other men. And so it can hinder our growth and our development as Christians. So I wanted to share with you a quick segment about traveling. I don't like traveling. I'm just making that confession to you. I don't like it. I love my job. I love what I do for a living. And I know God has anointed me to do it. But part of that is a daily grind, which is getting on planes, getting in rental cars, staying in hotels, eating the same food. You get the routine. And so it can become rather tedious after a while. And I'm on the road. I guess I'm in about 50 to 60 cities a year, and it can wear you down. But however, I realize that God has put me in this position and has given me an opportunity to connect with people. And so I wanted to share this metaphor with you about traveling. I don't like being on planes because people tend to, either kind of focus on what they're doing. And I'm one of those guilty people who don't really want to talk to anybody. But I realize that every time I step on a plane, I have a choice. And men, listen to me. You have a choice anytime you engage or connect with anyone. Now, here's some of your choices and the options that you have. I'm only going to give you 3 options, pretty much, and I'm sure there's more. However, whenever you are traveling and you meet anyone, you have the option, number 1, to kind of just go through the motions. You can either go through the motions, or you can choose to matter in that person's life by being a blessing to them or allowing them to be a blessing to you. Also, and I struggle with this, when I get on a plane, I really don't want to talk to anybody. So I have a chance, or you have a chance as well. Either I can choose to isolate myself from my surroundings, the people who are sitting next to me on the plane, or I can choose to deliberately and intentionally connect with them on a deeper emotional and possibly a spiritual level. And so that's a choice that we make. Now, also, here's another option. And again, I tell you, I'm struggling with this, but I know that I have to be aware of this every time I travel. When you're on a plane or when you're meeting strangers and you interact with them, you also have a chance to either make it a forgetful experience where they just kind of mesh and blend in with everything else that you've done, or you can choose to make it a memorable experience. It can be forgetful or it can be memorable. And so that's why I'm going to end on this particular point as we shoot this quick video, is how then do you make it memorable? How do you avoid isolating yourself so you can deliberately connect with someone? How do you make sure that your interaction with that person matters the most, and that it's not just you going through the motions? And here's the quick way that I do it, because I have to force myself to do it constantly, is that when I'm on a plane with someone, or if I meet someone, or if I'm standing in line at a rent-a-car place, or whatever it may be, or they're engaging me in a conversation, typically the conversation is pretty basic. They'll ask you questions like, where are you from? Where are you traveling to? Is this business or pleasure? Are you single? Are you married? Do you have any children? What do you do for a living? So I realized that those questions don't allow me to make the experience memorable. So I decided to add another question. So after I answered their questions, I asked them this question: what's your story? Now, typically they look at me kind of strange because no one is really ever asking that question. They say, I'm sorry, Joe, what do you mean, what's my story? And I tell them, I say, okay, well, when I mean, what's your story? Right now you're sitting in first class, but were you always a first class person? Now, what I mean by that is, has your whole life story been a first class experience? Or have you struggled? Have you gone through some trials and tribulations? I want to know, when I ask you what's your story, I want to get back to that time when you didn't think you were going to make it, when you thought about throwing in the towel and just giving up on everything. But for some reason, something deep inside your soul told you not to quit, not to give up, to get up one more time. See, when I'm asking you, stranger, about what's your story, I want to know that story when you didn't always smell so good, when you didn't always look so good, and you didn't always sit in first class. I want to know that story. Now, I can honestly tell you that when I've done that, I've had to do very little talking after that. All I had to do was a lot of listening. And you will realize you connect with people on a level that you never even imagined in your life. So I'm challenging you, men. I know how we are. We get into our little bubble and we want to be isolated from everybody in society. But I'm challenging you to ask people about their story. See, everybody has a story. You have a story, I have a story, and that's how we connect with other people. That's how God wants us to connect with other people, starting with men that we encounter. So I'm going to challenge you to look at your own story, but I'm going to challenge you more importantly to ask that question of others. What is your story? So remember, we are males by birth, but we are men by choice, so we must make that choice intentionally because a male is a terrible thing to waste. Be blessed, stay strong, and most of all, stay in his grip. See you next time.